Good afternoon, people. Not morning at all, of course. The sun's moved. Anyway, I've been thinking, and I know I normally say that and then amend the comment by saying I'm thinking, and that's where I get myself into trouble. In this case, hopefully not. In fact, the idea is simple, possibly very effective, and a whole lot easier than the other ideas that I have now rejected. What is that, you may ask, or what is the idea? Well, it comes back to my clamping procedure and method. And as much as I think these clamp extenders are really, really good, and I'll still be making more of them, I've got another clamp extender, and it's called a bit of polypropylene, no, whatever it is, pipe. Cheap and easy to get, whack a couple of holes in it, and then they can be used to extend your clamps. How easy is that? It doesn't have one aspect to it, which is not hard to remedy, and that's keeping the bar up off of the surface that you're clamping. And by the way, this is not even the idea yet. This is more like the background, because there will be situations where this particular approach will be better than the one I'm going to talk about, but it's good to give a little bit of preamble to the idea. This I like a lot, the one with the pipe, because it's easy to store, it's easy to make, and it's easy to put lots of different holes in different places for different clamping positions and distances. So I like that a lot. So I started mentioning about how perhaps I could use the workbench to support the panels down the side, sitting on bench dog, pegs, and then perhaps have a clamping something on top of it to do these clashing strips. Now, this, in my iteration, is not suitable for clamping up multiple heavy pieces of timber, or heavy pieces of timber at all. That's better served by having the pipe clamps and sash clamps, etc. More so even than these, what do you call them, quick release tools like this. These are still quite light in the scheme of things for those particular heavy timber glue-ups. More than suitable for the lighter timber glue-ups, the ones that I'd be doing on occasion, but even they, I don't think is going to work as well as this new idea I've got. And that's a totally independent of the work surface itself, but it's got a timber, at this stage, it could be metal, but a timber backbone that everything can, how would you say, fix to, and because of that, you can move it. It's not fixed in place, which was a bit of a issue for the idea that I was trying to work on. Still, I know at the moment you're probably thinking, what the hell's he talking about? But that's fine. I can accept that. But just imagine. I'll try and get set up for this. Imagine we've got a heavy timber, not dissimilar to this, but a heavy, straight piece of timber. And we can put, in fact, let's just get some other, actually I'll use this. We can use a strip like this, maybe, largely unnecessary, but we put, I'm trying to get all the bits and pieces necessary for this example, but we put this heavy timber, and that's our backbone, on our worktop. The worktop is flat, and is itself straight as well. This timber is straight, so, and it's fairly hefty, like it's got a bit of heft to the to it's rigid. In other words, we can put these bars on, if you want to call it that, or these ones with the pressure pads on, and then we can take a bit of the clashing strip, sit it in place like that. Seems reasonable. So now that when the pressure comes down onto it via the panel that we're gluing up, all those pressure points will push at those points, obviously, onto the glue up of the panel. And all we need now is to be able to hold this plumb, already got that sorted, and then clamp it. Well, those other things I was just mentioning, those other things being the clamps, can then be used. This can hook onto that rigid backbone by putting a pin through that bottom hole, and the clamp can clamp down onto the panel itself. The panel itself gives the rigidity to the whole combo, you could say. Now, once that's all clamped up and it's held, you can move the whole assembly around to get better access to it. That is a massive bonus, because sometimes when you've got a rigid glue up situation, it's damned hard to move your panel to get at the other side or something, So, and the thing I like about it is, it's really, once you pull it all apart, which it can be, you're left with the backbone that you can pop up on the shelf, along with other items that you pop up on the shelf. So I like that idea a lot. Now, I said the same thing about some of the other good ideas, but those other good ideas, every time I looked at something if we do this, you have to do two other things to make it work. And I've looked at 2 or 3 different iterations before I came to this, and I thought, well, if I put it up on the bench itself, you're not going to get any stronger structural surface than the bench on that, but I can't fix to the bench because it's not then movable. But if I put a length of timber or steel or aluminium, but something that I can then lay my components on and fix my clamp and my square assembly here for keeping it plumb and not falling over, all of a sudden that made a lot more sense. The panel height will be, be whatever the height of the panel is, but it's adjustable because you've got these plastic clamp extenders. The clamps can be at whatever length you happen to have in your workshop, because the only thing that changes is the length of the pipe. And that's, you could almost say it's a disposable, not that you'd pop them up on the shelf as well, to be used as and when you need it. Now, that doesn't have to be a plastic pipe. It can be a piece of timber. Same thing. Anything that... it could be something like this. But just the version that I had, the idea of, was that if I put a slot in here, then the pipe can actually fit into that slot and locate down the timber in a few different places. The beauty of this approach is you don't need a lot of clamps. So long as your panel remains rigid, you really only need a clamp at one clamp at each end. Pop one in the middle for that matter. It doesn't really matter, but you don't need to spend a lot of money and a lot of fiddling to have your clamp up. The main claim to fame on this is that the thickness of your clashing strip becomes a factor in how you clamp up. And if you have to put your clamping points closer together via a clamp, it's fiddly and it costs a lot for your clamps. This way, bugger all clamps. The rigidity of the panel allows that to function well. You can use the bigger clamps for all that matter, and clamp up and you're done, because your panel and clashing strip will be pressed on these points, giving any slight, how would you say, imperfections to the clashing strip. It negates that. So it's a good thing. Also, the clashing strip thickness, as I said, you can start to go thinner and thinner and thinner, because the clashing strip is being supported by all these little pressure points all the way along, keeping the clashing strip pushed against the panel. I like it. The fiddliness that I was saying, before, is when I did this one, and it's worked really well. I've got to say, that's actually my best panel. It had 8 clamps on it. And I'm thinking, that's just silly to have to spend, not spend, but the effort to do that. I could see wasn't ideal. Now, 2 clamps. So simple. Will it work? Don't know, haven't done it yet. But the premise is not bad. It's bloody good, I think. And if it works that well, then the only limiting factor for me is having a tidy workshop, which is my aim anyway. So any surface can be used with this approach. The bigger the surface that you're working on, the better, but because you've got a strong back in the timber, not hard at all. In fact, it could be a bit of, as long as it's dead straight, a bit of, like 6x2 or 4x2 or something like that. Pop it down, fix it to it, you're done. Can't be much cheaper than that. So, yeah, sounds quite positive. Problem for me is I'll probably be finished this project before I actually build that clamping approach, and I won't be able to find the glitches, which there will be some. I'll be finished the use of for that sort of clamp. So yeah, that's the kind of a downside, but I'm going to make it anyway. Give it a crack. And this is another thing. If it's a good idea and you can grab it and go, oh yeah, I can see what he's getting at. I've got the SketchUp drawings done already. Well, that's where I came up with the idea, actually. You can look at it and go, oh yeah, but if I do this, it'll work better in your situation. I had thought about making use of the bench dogs, because they are spaced at a regular distance of, let's just say, 100 millimeters. Well, these are spaced at roughly 150, 130 mil spacings. And I thought, what about if I make pads or something for the bench dogs? That would work. Yes, it would work, but would work. English. But that then means that it's rigid and fixed to your work surface, which is what I didn't want. However, that doesn't mean to say you can't do this very similar thing on a panel that you're using as an accessory to the workbench, and put the bench dogs in that are a little bit thicker or a little bit longer than the thickness of the top. And they then act as the pressure points upon which you can, the bench dogs I'm talking about, then you put the clashing strip and all this, but you can put the clashing strips on top of the bench dogs, which are spaced at 100 millimeters, then put your panel on top, and then the other bench dogs, which will be 100 millimeters away on each side, you can use to put in clamps, and then clamp down your panel. The beauty of this, my approach, is that it's the extender. What's one of the benefits of it? Because maybe clamping using the bench dogs is not that desirable for you. So whereas this I think this approach is actually a much better idea. But I do like the idea of being able to have the whole assembly move, whether it's move out of the way or spin round. Move it in some manner is probably going to be beneficial. You could have a couple, because of you're only using 2 clamps or 3 clamps or whatever. I'm talking about along a length of panel like this where I had 8. That means I could do more of these glue ups at one time. In fact, you could have a row of them if you needed it, and that's when you start doing this sort of work. 2 clamps on either end of this panel means that I could then move it back a little bit, do the next panel, move it back, and because of the system that I'll have for the, like just a couple of bits of timber that have been braced, the panel can rest or fix in some manner to that braced 90-degree angle, and it actually is part of the glue up assembly. So cheap, easy. I've done that already, actually, not in a glue up situation, but I've done it already when I was working on some assemblies, and I just made up some temporary 90-degree fittings, you could say, like a lot of people do. So I'm just taking one idea and using it in another situation. So I reckon that's pretty good. And if it is, you'll see another video. If it's not, this video might get deleted. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. And I've got to do some more gluing up now without that flaming approach, which is a bit annoying. Oh well, there you go. Right, that's it. Better get some work done. See you later now. Bye.